The Great Gatsby. Written by F. Scott Fitzgerald in 1925, it was initially unsuccessful upon publication, but went on to become the great American novel. The story is told through the eyes of an implied author, Nick Carraway, a Midwesterner who attended Yale and after enlisting in the First World War, he comes to New York City to pursue a career in bonds. The story is told through non chronological flashbacks, beginning in the summer of 1922 in the fictional West Egg in New York. The theme is the American dream and the pursuit of happiness. It's about the roaring 1920s, their uninhibited materialism and pioneer individualism. The green light represents boundless hope that is just out of the grasp of outstretched hands, like the American dream. What makes Gatsby great is his power of vision, his power of dreaming that is radical. Gatsby represents freedom from the past. He overcame what was destined to him and its limitations, whereas Nick is deeply rooted in his past, which he calls his dad's moral privileges. The story begins with Nick entering his West Egg house. Now, West Egg is for the newly rich, whereas the East Egg is where the aristocrats live. These are his cousin Daisy and Tom Buchanan. Tom is the antagonist. When Nick goes to meet Daisy, there he also meets Jordan Baker. She is a professional golfer. Between West Egg and East Egg, there's an ash dump called the Valley. This represents people who are neither West Egg nor East Egg. And this is where George Wilson has a garage, and his wife is Myrtle, with whom Tom has an affair. Every weekend there are parties at Gatsby's place. Gatsby is the immediate neighbor of Nick's. In one such party, Nick meets Jordan again, and both set out to find the elusive Mr. Gatsby. There are stories of him attending Oxford, there are stories about how he acquired his wealth, and at midnight, J. Gatsby introduces himself formally to Nick and keeps calling him Old Sport. Gatsby stays aloof from his guests and does not drink. Around 2 a.m., Gatsby and Jordan start talking. Meanwhile, Owl's Eyes, a man that reads Gatsby's books, is met by Nick. Nick again encounters him on his way home. Nick here says that he is one of the few honest people he knows. He says this to position himself apart from the people who Gatsby meets and even Jordan, who he says cheated on her first tournament. In the fourth chapter, Nick lists the people who attended Gatsby's parties. Nick recalls what he learned about Gatsby in his own words. Nick went to New York for lunch with Gatsby, where Gatsby tells him that he descended from wealthy Midwesterners and that he likes cricket, which he played at Oxford, and shows his medals from World War One from Montenegro. Nick finds this improbable and shady. Gatsby drives his car fast and gets stopped by the police, but when they find out it's Gatsby, he's let go of. Here, Nick learns through Jordan that Gatsby is in love with Daisy, and it is Daisy's dog that has the green light that Gatsby keeps looking at. Nick agrees to help Gatsby reunite with Daisy. He does this by offering to have Daisy over so that Gatsby can meet her. Gatsby is nervous, and on the day of Daisy's arrival, he startles Nick, who is going home. In return, Gatsby gratefully offers a business deal, but Nick declines. He offers to get Nick's grass cut, but Nick declines that also. But Gatsby gets the lawn cut anyway and orders flowers, etc. on the day of the meeting. When he's extremely nervous and knocks over a clock, The knocking over of the clock represents how Gatsby is trying to knock over time, take it back, and stop it still. Nick leaves Gatsby and Daisy to talk, and Daisy cries. Rumors of Gatsby's origin soon start whispering in New York City circles. Nick now tells us the real story, not the rumors, not what Gatsby has told us, about the real story of Gatsby. Gatsby was born as James Gatz in North Dakota in a farm, and he dropped out of St. Olaf College because he hated the janitorial work he had to do to pay for it. Later, he went to work on Lake Superior, and here he sees a yacht that is owned by Dan Cody, a wealthy man, and he wrote to warn Dan Cody about an impending storm. Grateful for this assistance, Dan Cody appoints him and gives him the name J. Gatsby, who is now a personal assistant who has traveled with Dan Cody. Dan Cody also leaves him $25,000 in 1920s money, but this was prevented by Cody's mistress. Nick visits Gatsby, and here he sees that Tom visits him also and is worried. Tom then insincerely invites Gatsby to visit him, and unknowingly, Gatsby accepts the invitation awkwardly. In chapter 7, Gatsby calls off the parties and dismisses the servants because the primary function of the parties was to have Daisy over. Now, Tom is convinced that Daisy is having an affair with Gatsby, and the whole team is now heading to New York City. Nick, Jordan, and Tom are in Gatsby's car, whereas Gatsby and Daisy are in Tom's car. In New York, Tom confronts Gatsby's lies, and Gatsby says that they're not lies. He was in Oxford for 5 months through an army program. That day, everybody had forgotten that it's Nick's 30th birthday party. In the return trip, Daisy is driving with Gatsby in Tom's car, and Myrtle runs over to stop the car, thinking Tom is in it because it's Tom's car, and Daisy accidentally runs over Myrtle. The next day, before dawn, Nick goes to Gatsby after a sleepless night and asks him to leave the area because the police will be coming over the murder of Myrtle. The gardener tells Gatsby that he must drain the pool, and Gatsby tells him to wait a day because he has never used the pool. Late for work, Nick leaves, telling Gatsby that he's worth more than the Buchanans and all their friends. As Gatsby is in his pool, Wilson, Myrtle's husband, shoots Gatsby, thinking he was the one who ran over his wife. And then Wilson kills himself also. Nick finds Gatsby dead in the pool. The last chapter opens and Nick holds a funeral for Gatsby that is only attended by few servants, Nick, Gatsby's father, and Owl Eyes. Tom and Daisy have moved away. Gatsby's dad is proud of his son. Nick visits Gatsby's mansion one last time before leaving and uses the green land of America as the green light of the dock for the New World explorers. Similar dreams everywhere, even though the boat gently rocks us into the past.